Hello, so for today I'm going to do the good old-fashioned ChatGPT 3.5. So for those of you who don't want to venture out into using Copilot, even though it's for free, and you just want to stick to the good old ChatGPT 3.5, today's video I will go over how you can use ChatGPT 3.5 to teach reading and ESL reading comprehension. Since we're not going to be doing anything listening in this video, then we can use ChatGPT 3.5 to generate the same quality kind of stories that you would get in Copilot. Although the difference between Copilot and 3.5 is that Copilot generates more involved stories than ChatGPT 3.5. So without further ado, let's go and play with ChatGPT 3.5. So here we have ChatGPT 3.5, and so here it's free. So here you could write, I am an ESL student. Write me a romantic story in the style of Barbara Cartland. You don't have to actually write in the style. You could just write me a romantic story. I mean, that's good enough. It doesn't have to be in the style of any particular author. So write me a romantic story. And so that's what's fun about ChatGPT, is that it can write whatever kind of story that you want. It adapts to the student's tastes, desires, and English level. Okay, so here you have it's writing, and look how it can write in real time, that fast. So here you would have, once upon a time in a quaint little town nestled among rolling hills and whispering trees, there lived a young man named Luca. Luca was an ESL student who had recently moved to the town from a faraway place. With his deep brown eyes and warm smile, he easily charmed everyone he met. One crisp autumn day, Luca wandered into the town bustling cafe, drawn by the aroma of freshly brewed coffee. As he stepped inside, his eyes fell upon a vision of beauty, a young woman named Alina, sitting by the window, lost in a book. Alina had long flowing hair, the color of midnight, and eyes that sparkled like stars. She was lost in the world of words, yet Luca couldn't help but be captivated by her grace and elegance. Summoning his courage, he approached her table. "Excuse me," he said. Luca said, his voice tinged with nervousness. "May I join you?" Lena looked up from her book, her cheeks flushing slightly at the sight of Luca's charming smile. "Of course," she replied, gesturing to the empty chair beside her, opposite her. As they sat together, sipping their drinks and sharing stories, Luca and Elena developed a deep connection between them. They laughed over shared interests and bonded over their love of literature and travel. With each passing moment, their friendship blossomed into something more profound. Days turned into weeks. Luca and Elena found themselves drawn to each other more and more. They spent their evenings together, and they walked hand in hand. On a starlit evening, as they stood beneath twinkling lights, Luca finally found the courage to confess his feelings for Elena. With trembling hands and a heart full of hope, he poured out his love for Elena. Elena's eyes shimmered with tears of joy as she said, "I love you too, Luca." And in that moment, Luca and Elena sealed their love with a tender kiss. From that day forward, Luca and Elena embarked on an adventure of love and adventure. Their bond grew stronger with each passing day. Together they navigated life's ups and downs. And so in a little town where their love began, Luca and Elena's love blossomed like flowers in a spring. So that pretty much, that's the story. Then you could ask ChatGPT, write reading comprehension questions. You don't have to type. You don't have to spell it right. Questions for this story. So if you want to test yourself on your reading comprehension, then, or if you're a teacher and you don't have the time to come up with reading comprehension questions, then ChatGPT, or you could come up with reading comprehension reading comprehension questions for you. And if you want, come up with vocabulary words, okay? So come up with vocabulary words for this story. And then ChatGPT will come up with vocabulary words for this story. Quaint, cobblestone, captivated, okay? And then you could even ask ChatGPT for, say, fill in the blank. Create a fill in the blank reading test for this story. So here you could have, see? And so instantly, if you're a teacher, this totally saves time so that you don't have to come up with a reading comprehension test. Then give me answers. So if you're practicing, and let's say you could take a piece of paper, write it all down, and then practice. If you're a student, you could take a piece of paper, practice using, filling these in, and then you're like, oh, did I do a good job, or what was my grade? And then you would write, give me answers, and then here, those are the answers to the quiz, okay? Or you could say, write me a love song about Alina and Luca's love story. All right, so based on this story, you can then have ChatGPT write a love song, and then you can have a different ChatGPT then sing the song for you. I'm sure there is an AI for that. Okay, so here you would have in a town where the hills embrace the sky, where whispers of love never say goodbye, there was Luca with his deep brown eyes caught in a moment under autumn skies. Alina with her hair like midnight hue, Luca's heart found solace in you. In a cafe where fate played its part, two souls collided, igniting a spark. From faraway lands, Luca came to roam, but in her eyes he found his home. Lost in books, lost in dreams, till she appeared like a star's gleam. So I actually fixed it a little bit by saying, well, not your eyes, in her eyes. But you can change the poem just a little bit, and it's really cute. So you can use ChatGPT to brainstorm ideas. If you want to write a poem, if you want to write a story, if you want to, if you're a teacher and you need some tests and quizzes, or if you're a student and you want to learn more vocabulary, you could have ChatGPT create a customized vocabulary list for you, and you could test your listening comprehension or test your reading comprehension by having ChatGPT come up with listening comprehension questions. And then you could also have ChatGPT come up with answers to these questions to see how well you did. And then not just love stories. So let's do the horror story. Write a horror story for Halloween, for instance. I'm not sure if it will do this, but let's see. So it did. So you can write a horror story, all right? So it can do any genre of any, simple English, hard English, that sort of thing. So I will read this, and so ChatGPT can come up with different genres. Deep in the heart of the dense forest, where the trees whispered ancient secrets and shadows danced in the moonlight, there stood an old abandoned mansion. Its crumbling facade loomed ominously against the night sky, a silent sentinel guarding the dark secrets that lay within. If you're a teacher, you don't have time to come up with these kind of stories, then you can have ChatGPT come up with stories for you, and then you can use these stories in class to captivate your class and get them into the story and have them. That would be listening comprehension. In other words, you create the story on ChatGPT, or have ChatGPT generate the story. Then, as a teacher, you could sit in class and read the story to the students. And then that way, the students can, and then if you have, you can have it the same story, but in different levels. So create this same horror story, but in easier English, for instance. And so here, in easier English, all right, it will create an easier version of that story. See how when you create an easier version, it's a lot shorter. So legend spoke of the mansion's dark past, of the family that had once called it home, and the tragedy that had befallen them on a night much like this one. It was said that their tortured souls still roamed the halls, trapped between the worlds of the living and the dead, seeking vengeance on anyone who dared to trespass upon their domain. On this fateful Halloween night, a group of adventurous teenagers gathered at the edge of the forest, drawn by whispers of the mansion's haunted history. Ignoring the warnings of those who knew better, they ventured forth into the darkness, their laughter echoing through the night as they approached the looming structure. As they stepped through the broken glass gates and into the overgrown garden, a chill wind whispered through the trees, sending shivers down their spines. But the thrill of the unknown spurred them onward, and soon they found themselves standing before the mansion's imposing entrance. With trembling hands, they pushed open the creaking doors and stepped inside, their footsteps echoing through the empty halls. Cobwebs hung from the ceiling like ghostly draperies, and the air was thick with the scent of decay. As they explored room after room, more decrepit than the last, they felt the weight of the mansion's dark history. But it wasn't until they reached the grand ballroom they realized the true horror of their situation. For there, standing before them in the flickering candlelight, were the ghostly figures of the family who had once lived in the mansion. Their eyes were hollow, and their faces twisted in agony, their spectral forms bathed in an ethereal glow. With a blood-curdling scream, the teenagers turned to flee, but the doors slammed shut behind them, trapping them inside with the vengeful spirits. In a desperate bid to escape, they raced through the mansion's halls, pursued by the angry souls, who sought to claim their souls, but no matter where they turned, they found themselves faced with dead ends and locked doors, their scream drowned out by the howling winds. And as the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, the forest fell silent once more, the mansion standing empty and abandoned, its secrets hidden beneath a veil of darkness. But somewhere deep within its crumbling walls, the echoes of that fateful Halloween night would linger on, a chilling reminder of the horrors that lurked within. And so that is a horror story. And so if you want it in an easier English, in a big forest, there was an old mansion. It looked scary with broken windows and overgrown garden. People said it was haunted by a family that used to live there a long time ago. They had a sad story, and now their ghosts were trapped inside looking for revenge. One Halloween night, a group of friends decided to explore the mansion. They ignored the warnings and went inside. The mansion was dark and creepy, with cobwebs everywhere. The friends felt scared but excited at the same time. As they walked through the rooms, they heard strange sounds and saw shadows moving, but they kept going until they reached a big room. In the dim light, they saw ghostly figures, the family's ghosts. The friends screamed and tried to run, but the doors slammed shut, trapping them inside. They ran through the mansion trying to escape, but everywhere they turned, they found dead ends. Finally, when the sun rose, the ghost disappeared, and the friends stumbled out of the mansion, shaken but safe. They vowed never to go back, but they knew the haunted mansion would always be there, waiting for its next victims. And so the easier version, the AI assumes, then the people who are reading it most likely are kids. So that's why I came out with a much better ending than for the more adult version, which didn't have an ending. And you would assume that the angry spirits ate the Halloween, the Halloween teenagers. So anyway, you write it in easier English. And just like before, you can ask ChatGPT for fill-in-the-blank questions, have your own customized vocabulary. You can create a creepy poem if you want. I won't do that for this story, but you get the idea that ChatGPT can create any kind of story of any genre, of any proficiency for your students. You can even have your students create creepy stories and have them then practice their English and listening comprehension by telling each other the stories that ChatGPT created. And then after that, you could have ChatGPT put away ChatGPT, and then now that the students understand American story structure, then they can create their own creepy stories or their own romance stories, so that they learn how to write in English. And so ChatGPT is a great tool for brainstorming ideas for ESL students to write creative stories, or for native speakers to write creative stories. And so I hope that you enjoyed this video about how you can use ChatGPT, the written version, and as well as the other one, the Copilot. So unlike Copilot, ChatGPT 3.5, you cannot talk to it, okay? You can only write out your text. That's why I didn't do any, talking to it. And but with Copilot, it can read things out to you. It can read aloud the story. So that's what I did in the previous video. And so if you like this video, before I do that, and so if you want to learn more about how to use ChatGPT with ChatGPT and ESL, you can buy my book, ESL and Language Learning in the Age of AI, ChatGPT Unleashed by ChatGPT. And it's available on Amazon, and it's volume 2. I wrote a volume 1 and a volume 2, so both are available on Amazon if you're interested in learning more about ESL. And then the audience for these books is for both ESL educators and ESL students, either one. So if you're an ESL student, I provide tips on how you can use ChatGPT to help you learn English. And if you're an ESL teacher, I provide tips on how you can integrate ChatGPT into your classroom. And in both, in my volume 1 and volume 2, I also provide sample syllabi on how you can, for teachers. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me at any time. And if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to the Professor H Writing channel. So I hope everyone has a great day.